Mark Levin, who actively wants a war with Iran, wants Iran wiped off the face of the map. He wants the United States to put Israel first, do Israel's bidding against Iran, he, Ben Shapiro, and others. But specifically, this is my favorite clip of the week. I've watched this multiple times now.
Let's warn you, there's a F-bomb here, but this one's worth it. This is the energy we feel. I just wanted to give that out. We didn't bleep it, did we?
I don't know.
I didn't bleep it, so okay. Nope. I just want to give that warning for our audience. Okay, go ahead.
So I don't want to hear it. I speak for the Christians and Jews of America, as I played last hour. I'm Mark Levin, and we don't stand with Al-Qaeda. Well, the hell you don't. Your boss, Netanyahu, literally runs it. He's the last standing neocon with any power. So I don't want to hear it. Stop talking to me like I'm culturally and historically and military illiterate. I'm not, Mark. And Trump is actually pro-Israel. And he understands that Iran is going to blow it off the map, and then Israel's going to blow them off the map, and then Pakistan and India are going to have a nuclear war. And all the war games, we're all dead, you dumb son of a bitch. What the fuck's your problem? You fucking megalomaniac fuckheads. And that's what Trump's told Netanyahu, a little nicer than that, but not much more, I was told. I mean, we're rational, sane men.
It's too good.
Oh my God, I've watched it so many times.
Yeah.
That's how I feel about Mark Levin. Oh my God, these
what the
warmongers.
What's your problem?
These neocons.
We want to not die and not other people to die.
And we don't want to do Netanyahu, the demon, the Satan that is Netanyahu. We don't want to do his bidding. Stop pretending that he's a nice guy. He's evil. And the people that have worked with him, who I've spoken to, will tell you how corrupt and evil that man is. We're not doing his bidding anymore. And I hope that message is getting through to Netanyahu, hopefully.
Watching Gaza burn, May 21st, 2025. Let's get into it. Wasn't that a great clip of Alex Jones up front? He expressed that sentiment perfectly. That's my sentiment. Sometimes somebody just says it the way and you go, you know what, I can't get on top of that. Because Mark Levin is a Zionist lunatic who wants the extermination of the Palestinians. He's been to Israel multiple times. He knows exactly what's going on in Gaza. Now, Sean Hannity, I think Sean just doesn't even know what's going on. Plus, he makes a lot of money opining for the so-called Israeli charities because he says we got to feed the Israelis. We're going to get into how stupid Sean Hannity really is. And of course, you got other talking heads like Todd Starnes and, pretty much every right-wing commentator is a spreader of misinformation. I'm probably unknowingly, a lot of them, but I did want to get that out of the way up front. And I wanted to give you this quote, any Christian watching this video, because this is going to be the most disturbing video I've ever made. I almost broke down and cried trying to make this video. But anyway, cast your bread upon the waters, and in a few days it will return manyfold unto you. Let me read that to you again. Cast your bread upon the waters, and in a few days it will return manyfold unto you. So when you watch this video, understand that what we've done, well, let's sit just 2 seconds on Ukraine. The latest numbers that Colonel McGregor is putting out is 1.5 million dead Ukrainians and between 200 to 300,000 dead Russians, and that doesn't even include casualties. And we are directly responsible for all of that death and destruction. And I'm calling him genocide done. genocide done. He weaponed up Ukraine on his first term, so he's just as much as responsible as Joe Biden was for that war. Let's get going here. So this will set the theme for the video. This is former Israeli MK Moshe Feiglin this morning on Channel 14. And I'll read it to you and then I'll play the video for you. Every child, every baby in Gaza is an enemy. The enemy is not Hamas. We need to conquer Gaza and colonize it and not leave a single Gazan child there. There is no other victory. He might as well just say no other Gazan, period. But he's talking directly about the children. And this is something that I don't get. I think most Christians don't really know what's going on with Israel and Gaza. And there are some that do, and they're just like a Zionist that we're going to watch this clip. This is their opinion.
אני אומר לך יותר מזה, כל ילד, כל תינוק בעזה הוא אויב. האויב הוא לא החמאס, והוא גם לא הזרוע הצבאית של החמאס, כמו שהפצ"רית שלנו מספרת לנו שאסור לנו לפגוע בחמאסניק, אלא אם כן הוא חלק מהזרוע הצבאית. כל ילד בעזה הוא האויב. אנחנו צריכים לכבוש את עזה וליישבה, ושלא יישאר שם ילד עזתי אחד. אין ניצחון אחר.
That, to me, was one of the most disturbing videos I've ever seen. And I wanted to, some people say, well, why don't the Arab states send any money or aid into Gaza? Because the Israelis kill them. If I can find the video, one of the most disturbing videos that I saw, and I can't believe I didn't save it somewhere, was the Israelis came in, and these were clearly identified UN troop, vehicles bringing food into Gaza. And the video is just unbelievable. They came in and they hit them. Of course, Israel said it was an accident. No, they hit them multiple times. And the symbols were clearly visible on top of the vehicles. And in the video, they were actually clapping and happy that they had just killed these UN volunteers that were trying to bring food into Gaza. If I can find that video, I'll put it on here.
In November, this convoy of vehicles belonging to Médecins Sans Frontières was attacked by a tank during an attempt to evacuate south from Gaza City. The charity says not only were they travelling in clearly marked vehicles and had notified the IDF, but that they were following a route indicated to them by Israeli forces. 2 people died. MSF concluded it was a deliberate attack by the IDF and asked for a formal investigation. None came. On January 18th, the accommodation and offices used by the British charity Medical Aid for Palestinians was hit by an airstrike in the supposedly safe zone of Al-Mawasi. They had sent their coordinates to the IDF, who at first denied responsibility, then said the strike was a mistake. On January 29th, in the neighborhood of Tel Al-Hawa in Gaza City, the Palestinian Red Crescent Society sent an ambulance to rescue 6-year-old Hind Rajab, who was trapped in a car with her family after they were killed by Israeli forces. The ambulance crew radioed to say they were being targeted by IDF lasers. There was a loud explosion and the connection was lost. 10 days later, after the charred vehicles were discovered, the IDF said they were looking into it. On the 5th of February, a UN food truck travelling as part of a convoy along the supposedly safe route on Al-Rashid Street was hit by naval fire. It was carrying food and flour, which was destroyed, and afterwards the UN stopped sending food trucks into the north. And on the 20th of February, this accommodation building used by MSF was hit by what weapons experts say was a tank shell. 2 people were killed and 7 injured. MSF say they had given the building's coordinates to the IDF, who have previously said they were examining the incident. One of many in which nearly 200 aid workers, mostly Palestinians, have been killed.
So anyway, I wanted to show you, and this is on that same theme. This was a picture put up by Syrian Girl. This was a Palestinian who made a documentary. You've seen her picture now. Palestinian photographer Fatima Hassouna announced her documentary will be screened at France Film Festival. Within hours, Israel murdered her and her entire family of 10. Doesn't sound like a very nice nation, does it? We're just getting started, people. We're just getting started about Israel. Everybody says, oh, Israel's our ally. You know we have no treaty whatsoever with Israel. Okay? Israel is not going to come rushing to the United States aid if we're attacked. They'll take our money. They'll take our bombs. Genocide Don. Genocide Don. That's his new label. By the way, do you think Republicans are going to win Michigan now? Oh, hell no. The reason we won Michigan was because it was Genocide Joe. Well, now we got Genocide Don. If you think Trump doesn't know what the hell's going on, let's watch a couple of clips. I was going to put these later in the video, but I wanted to put these up front to show you, at least in theory, Trump knows what's going on in Gaza. Let's watch those two clips now.
We're going to handle a couple of situations that you have here. We have some very serious situations, and we're looking at Gaza, and we got to get that taken care of. A lot of people are starving. A lot of people there's a lot of bad things going on. When Gaza came up, and I said, we got to be good to Gaza. Those people are suffering. We got to be good to Gaza. We're going to take care of that. There's a very big need for medicine, food and medicine, and we're taking care of it.
In terms of like opening up more access points, or
very hard.
Pushing the Israelis.
We are.
To open up more access
very
points.
Hard to get food and medicine into Gaza.
How did the Prime Minister respond to that?
Well, felt well about it.
So that's Trump, in his own damn words, condemning himself. Genocide Don. And that's going to be the hashtag on this video. And if you watch this video on X, I want you to repost this video and put it to the hashtag Genocide Don. Okay, let's get this. So here's the latest numbers. This was put out in multiple channels, and so I've verified this 10 ways to Sunday. This is Husma Yasuf. 14,000 babies will die in the next 48 hours unless Israel allows sufficient aid into Gaza. Stop what you're doing. Take action. At the very least, speak out and demand the UK government stop selling arms to Israel. Do something. The lives of 14,000 babies depends on it.
14,000 babies. That's how many will die in Gaza in the next 48 hours if enough aid is not let in, according to the UN. 14,000 babies. If that's not enough to prick your conscience, then I don't know what is. So if, like me, you're angered and outraged, then do something about it. At the very least, stop what you're doing and speak it. Also, write to your MP, your elected members. Demand that the UK government presses and pressures Israel to allow sufficient aid into Gaza. And for goodness sake, stop selling the Israelis weapons, arms to commit such atrocities. So take action. The lives of 14,000 babies depend on it.
Now, 5,000 have already died. 5,000. Oh, Israel, they're paying it lip service. Maybe this is they're pulling the wool over Trump's eyes. I think 6 food trucks got into Gaza yesterday. Is that somebody? Correct me if I'm wrong, but that's what the number that I heard. They let 6 in. That's enough to feed, I don't know, 100 people, maybe 200. I don't know. It's the other million people are going to starve to death, and they are starving, and they're dying. So, but let's. So here's a picture from, and this is Al Jazeera. So I told you, I got multiple sources. This is the report from Al Jazeera, and you see in the picture right now. 14,000 babies are at risk of dying in the next 48 hours in Gaza if aid doesn't reach them, warns Tom Fletcher, the UN's Undersecretary General for Humanitarian Affairs. A figure he called utterly chilling. Maybe not to Christians. They want all the Gazans dead. Yeah, let's go to church. Let's go to church and just murder them. They're just sand niggers. They're just sand niggers. They're not real babies. No, these people in Gaza, they're just sand niggers, man. We just got to kill them all. Kill them all. And if the Arab neighbors cared about them, they would do something about it. They can't. Israel kills them. Plus, they're worried that if they go against Israel, the United States is going to enter the conflict. You think Egypt wants to be bombed by the United States? Now Iran's getting ready to be bombed. At least they're doing something. And look at what happened to Yemen. Yemen was trying to do something. We got a quote from, here's the Yemeni. I was going to put this later in the video. The Yemeni military forces decided to impose a naval blockade on the port of Haifa. Seaports in occupied Palestine will be closed and airports will no longer be safe. So, Trump, genocide done. You think he stopped Yemen from trying to stop the Israelis from the ethnic cleansing of the Palestinians? And we're not even talking, I'm just talking about Gaza. You don't even know what's going on in the West Bank. They're killing them there too. By the hundreds, by the thousands. Oh yeah, we need to exterminate all the Palestinians. You know, hell, why stop there? I think we should just kill all Arabs in general. Don't you? I mean, if you know an Arab, be sure and go out and blow their brains out. All right, so we're going to get into some videos here. This is, well, actually, I want to put this one up front. I meant to do this a lot sooner in the video, but we got a very long video from Redacted, and they do a really good job of covering what's going on in Gaza. It's kind of long in the tooth, but let's watch that now before we get into the shorter clips.
All right, let's get to the news. So Benjamin Netanyahu's starvation of Gaza plan is in full effect, intentionally blocking international food aid, watching 2 million Palestinians starve to death. That's the goal. This is a war crime by all accounts. Even if you're like fully in the tank for Israel and you don't think Israel could ever do anything wrong, they walk on water, whatever it is, this is a war crime. By any definition, this is a war crime. This is the stuff of demons. And yes, Benjamin Netanyahu is a demon. That's no longer up for debate. Even the Trump administration officials are saying this behind closed doors. Very interesting, isn't it? The once loved Netanyahu is now being pushed aside, cast asunder, as they say. That's why Trump is distancing himself from Netanyahu publicly, rescuing an American hostage, pissing off Netanyahu. Friend of the show, Jewish journalist Max Blumenthal reported Netanyahu wanted hostage Adon Alexander dead. And instead, Trump went behind his back and got him out. Netanyahu wanted Adon Alexander dead and regrets that Trump rescued him via back-channel negotiations with Hamas. Alexander's story should be a cautionary tale for every American Jew considering making Aliyah and joining the Israeli occupation army. Overnight, Israel launched a new round of attacks on Gaza, killing 84 people, including little children. The photos are just heartbreaking. We had to blur them out here so, you know, that you can't see them. But, you know, a father here just touching the head of his dead son, his little son, wrapped in a sheet. We've blurred out his face because it's just too horrible, of course, to look at. President Trump in Saudi Arabia said he's working on ending the war in Gaza as soon as possible. Right as soon as he said that, though, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu renewed his promise that the war will not stop. So Trump says we're stopping this thing, and Netanyahu's like, nope, no, you're not. We're going to continue this. And so you see where this is going. President Trump also said we need to get food to the people of Gaza.
When Gaza came up, and I said, you know, we gotta be good to Gaza. Those people are suffering. We got to be good to Gaza. We're going to take care of that. There's a very big need for medicine, food and medicine, and we're taking care of it.
In terms of like opening up more access points, or
very hard.
Pushing the Israelis.
We are.
To open up more access
very
points.
Hard to get food and medicine into Gaza.
How did the Prime Minister respond to that?
Well, felt well about it.
We're pushing them hard.
Netanyahu, who felt well about it?
Yeah, I'm sure he felt well about that because I'm sure some threats were actually made. We're pushing them very hard. Okay, that's all good. That's all fine and good, but Israel is still using American bombs to kill innocent people. Israel used American bombs overnight to attack 2 different hospital locations in Khan Yunis. Trump could stop this immediately. No more like friendly phone calls with him, pushing him around on this. If he really wanted to, you stop the weapons, you stop the money flowing into Israel right now. It's very, very simple. Europe and the United Nations have turned on Israel in a big way. Every EU country on the Security Council demanding Israel lift its food aid blockade that is starving Gaza.
Israel has now fully blocked aid entering Gaza for over 2 months. Blocking aid as a pressure lever is unacceptable. And last week, the Israeli Security Cabinet approved plans to expand its military operations in Gaza.
And the United Nations.
And the West Bank, too.
Yeah. And the United Nations, the head of Relief Aid, Tom Fletcher, really raised a lot of eyebrows yesterday when he said that life-saving assistance is sitting there. It's waiting at the border crossings. And humanitarian aid workers are desperate to deliver that aid. But of course, Israel won't let them. And also, the real story, of course, anybody who's covering this, is that they're being targeted and shot. That's also what's happening. Those aid workers are being targeted and assassinated. Watch.
For more than 10 weeks, nothing has entered Gaza. No food, medicine, water, or tents. Every single one of the 2.1 million Palestinians in the Gaza Strip face the risk of famine. 1 in 5 face starvation. Despite the fact that you have funded the food that could save them. I can tell you from having visited what's left of Gaza's medical system that death on this scale has a sound and a smell that does not leave you. As one hospital worker described it, children scream as we peel burnt fabric from their skin. And yet we hear that we did all we could. Our response as humanitarians is to make a single ask of the Council. Let us work. We have a plan. We have life-saving supplies ready now at the borders. We can save hundreds of thousands of survivors. We have rigorous mechanisms to ensure our aid gets to civilians and not to Hamas.
Yeah.
There's a good question in the chat, and Rumble says, why doesn't Egypt send all the aid? Because, of course, Gaza does back up to Egypt, and there are entry points through Egypt, but Israel inspects those. Israel
totally controls it.
Israel controls those too, and the Egyptian government has worked alongside and cooperated with Israel because they don't want a war on their own borders as well. It's a fair question. Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, doesn't Israel runs 8 miles into Egypt, doesn't it? Something like into Rafah. I mean, they not just control the border, but into the border.
Yeah, we've covered extensively here, just across the border in Rafah, that massive concentration camp that Egypt built, but Israel controls and has full security control over that entire region. Also, Israel bombed the Rafah border crossing when they were trying to get aid there before. So, yes.
Right. Fair question. Okay. Well, meanwhile, even Israeli journalists are calling some major BS on the Netanyahu regime. Gideon Levy is an Israeli journalist with Haaretz, and he gave this heartbreaking interview this week. And I want to show you clips of this. Watch how he begins when the journalist asks him, what is the plan here? How do Israelis take this? Watch.
I am so desperated that I don't know where to start. On one hand, I have the feeling that there are no real goals. In the beginning of this war, or this attack, shall we call it a brutal attack and not a war? In the beginning, it was very clear that Israel wants to punish Gaza, not only Hamas. You know, the 7th of October was really a traumatic event in Israel, and there was the need to do something, and to punish, and to take revenge. But 19 months later, when you see that it continues, and it continues in a terrible intensity. Only the last day, there were almost 100 people killed, almost all of them innocent people, 22 children, just in the last day when we are talking now. You realize that genocide is the word. Now, it's not that Israel is planning a genocide, no, even not the government. But it's very clear that there's nothing cheaper than the life of the people in Gaza, and they are serving as toys in a game, mainly domestic politics game, in which Netanyahu and his government want to continue it.
It's Netanyahu and his government that wants this. Clearly, there's no other explanation. Now, here he talks about how the rest of the world sees this in batches, and we get it in news headlines: 20 children killed, 15 in a school, 15 medics here, a few in an apartment building here. He says for him, it isn't these numbers, it's real people like this. Watch.
There are the statistics which are horrifying, the UN statistics. Every day you get new figures, but it's not only about the figures. I mean, it's very clear that starvation, every fifth person in Gaza is starving. Over 90% of the people of Gaza, if not 100%, don't get enough food. But I always think about individuals. I have a friend in Gaza with whom I used to work in Gaza for many, many years. He's 63 after a stroke. And he's diabetic and he needs insulin. And 1 week ago, he told me he was left with the last 2 drops of insulin. I didn't call him ever since then, but we know what happens to people in his condition when they don't have insulin. He is not an exception. He is Gaza.
He is Gaza.
Can you imagine sitting there and you're like, I can't call him back because I can't know what's going to happen to him because I know the inevitability. So we sit by while people go into diabetic comas. And that's what we are doing collectively. Now, he says 2 more things that I really want you to hear because I think this is the only thing that people in our helpless situation can take away from this. Number 1, how do Israelis live like this with so much death happening in front of them every single day? How do they live? He says, we have a constant cloud. I mean, you have to think about it, like the energy of death is constantly in the air. And then he talks about who is the only person who can stop it. So first, how do Israelis cope with this?
What Israelis tell themselves is that the world is anti-Semitic, that they are all against us no matter what we do, that they all hate us no matter what we do. And by this, that's the best protection shield, because then you are not accountable for anything. It's about the world who is anti-Semitic. And therefore, people are less troubled by it.
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, it is. It's a good, it's a good robe to wrap yourself in.
Right. We have to do it because they want our extinction. So it gives us license because everybody hates them, right? They're sold this idea. And yet when Israelis go abroad, they are usually welcomed diplomatically. And so, it's an indoctrination. If you can read many books of Israeli Jews who've been told about who write about the education they get from the get-go, from the start. So he talks about, the anchor says, well, what about, all the boycotts of Israel or the Israeli economy, because Israel can suffer from this because the international world is condemning them. So will the fallout of the Israeli economy do anything? And he says, well, really, there isn't a fallout. We're all pretty much fine. Our economy's good. Life here is pretty good other than this dark cloud. Listen to who he thinks is the only person who can stop it.
The only one who can stop Israel right now is Donald Trump. And I have a feeling that he is not going to do it, but I'm not sure. I still have some hope.
Okay. Is there any other way to see it? Your university boycott is not going to do anything. Obviously the leaders of Europe, to be fair, Macron has been saying this for over a year, that the people of Gaza are suffering. It's easy to ignore Macron. It's easy to ignore Spain, right? It's the only person it's not easy to ignore is Donald Trump. He really is the only one who handles the cards. But maybe, just maybe, Trump is starting with a bigger priority right now, which is preventing Israel from starting a nuclear World War III.
All right. So that was redacted on Gaza. So now we're going to start getting into video after video. So this is Ron Paul, and he's talking about the unspeakable suffering that U.S. taxes and bombs have inflicted on Gaza. And he doesn't even talk about the West Bank in this video, but he does sum it up very good. Let's watch Ron Paul now.
This is thanks to Dave DeCamp over at Anti-War, who's written up several pieces of information. And as you say, Dr. Paul, Israeli strikes kill hundreds in Gaza as IDF announces extensive ground operations. We're talking 150 people, mostly women and children, killed each day over the past 4 or 5 days. You're seeing a massive increase, and as you say, the point is to completely depopulate the area. And what's happening is two things. Now, first of all, they've been starved since March. Virtually no food has gotten in since March. We've seen pictures of people, I've seen pictures of starving kids, dead babies who starved to death, etc. So when you starve people for that many months, and then you offer the aids, so some limited amount of aids coming in. It's coming in according to a very weird scheme, whereby I think there are maybe 4 or 5 distribution centers for 2 million people. So they're each going to have to distribute 500,000 meals, which is almost impossible if you think about it. But what they are is they're built into basically walled-in concentration camps. So if you're hungry, you got to go where the food is, and you got to get locked in. It's almost using this food as bait to get these people to leave the rest of Gaza and come in and finally get some food, and then they will have been ethically cleansed. So in what looks like it might be a humanitarian concession, in fact is the opposite. It's a way of doing the final cleansing of the Gaza Strip of Palestinians.
And it does seem like there's no realistic allies to the Palestinians in the region. Sounds like the vocal people are on college campuses getting their civil rights abused because they're not supposed to even talk about it and say that there's something unfair about what's going on. Of course, our position is not deciding to pick sides as much as pick our side and say just stay out of it, because when you look at it, if we said, well, why don't we accept the principle that we don't give weapons and we don't send equipment and all and support this type of operation? I mean, just think how much money we'd save there.
Yeah.
I mean, we could do that without cutting food stamps. But that is, and that's one thing that hasn't, they're not even pretending to cut that. They were right up front bragging about how they're increasing, and next year it's going to be more.
But here's something that's pretty grim. Now, this is from Dropsite News. This was just released. If you go ahead, skip one and go to that list, that post, that X post. The Health Ministry, this is in Gaza, the Health Ministry has released a new 1,000-page document with the names, ages, and other info of 52,959 Palestinians killed in Gaza. For the first 100 pages, over 5,000 names, the age is listed at 5 years or younger. The first 18 pages, the age is listed as 0, i.e. under 1 year. Now you could say, well, this is the health ministry, this is Hamas, it's propaganda, what have you. But this is a list of every person with the details of their lives who've been killed, and so many babies killed, you know.
Boy.
It's
it certainly is a horror.
Okay, so that was Ron Paul. Now, let's see, I just want to make sure I don't want to, yeah, we're still in order. Okay, so now you think, I read that statement at the beginning about your bread, cast your bread upon the waters. Look at the bread we're casting upon the waters. The extermination of the Palestinian people. And we played, Genocide Don is enabling the whole thing to happen. Genocide Don is still giving Ukrainian weapons. Genocide Don is still giving targeting data to the Ukrainians and killing Russians. Genocide Don is launching missiles into Russia. Oh, he's a peacemaker, all right. He's a peacemaker, but yet he's still shipping America. I mean, your taxpayer money, we elected Trump to get us out of this bullshit. Instead, he's got us more deeply involved. Anyway, this is a video of China speaking out about Gaza. Now, if you think it's just China, the whole world hates Israel now. and their co-belligerent, the United States. This is China on Gaza.
In a bold escalation of diplomatic tensions, China has demanded that Israel immediately withdraw its forces from Gaza, warning of unspecified actions if the demand is not met. The statement, issued by China's foreign ministry on Monday, cites the ongoing humanitarian crisis in Gaza and accuses Israel of violating international law. The nature of China's potential actions remains unclear, though analysts speculate it could involve economic sanctions, diplomatic isolation, or support for international legal measures against Israel. The statement follows months of heightened Chinese criticism of Israel's actions in Gaza amid growing global calls for a ceasefire. Israel's foreign ministry responded defiantly, calling the demand unacceptable interference and asserting its right to defend itself against terrorism. The United States, a key Israeli ally, has yet to comment officially but is expected to back Israel. The ultimatum marks a rare instance of China taking a hardline stance on the Israel-Palestine conflict, potentially reshaping geopolitical dynamics in the Middle East.
Inutile che mi fai gesti, perché è così, perché io so che lei è in difficoltà, perché oggi lei è stata profondamente ipocrita, non ha avuto il coraggio di condannare ciò che è di fronte agli occhi del mondo, uno sterminio, una deportazione, una pulizia etnica. Di questo lei si deve vergognare di fronte al popolo italiano.
Concluda.
Lei si deve vergognare.
Concluda.
Io sono inorridito, indignato dalla sua ipocrisia. Un'ipocrisia che non ha avuto il coraggio di condannare i fatti criminali che stanno accadendo. Ma lei, da madre, come si sente a vedere bambini uccisi 18.000? Non ha il coraggio di condannare i ministri del governo Netanyahu che dicono che bisogna bombardare i depositi alimentari. E di fronte a questo lei non ha il coraggio di dire condanno quello che sta facendo il governo di Israele. Questo lo trovo francamente un'ipocrisia che di fronte al popolo italiano, e sono sicuro di interpretare il sentimento maggioritario del popolo italiano, che di fronte all'orrore che stiamo vedendo lei non è in grado di esprimere una parola di condanna, di dire sanzioni a chi uccide bambini, a chi uccide un popolo inerme, sanzioni, le stesse sanzioni che avete deciso per la Russia. Io le dico perché lei sta facendo questo, signora Presidente. Perché lei sta facendo un calcolo politico. È più importante mantenere il suo potere, non inimicarsi Israele, non inimicarsi Washington, comprare armi da loro, vendere armi a Israele.
Okay, that's China. So, now, somebody put this out. This was a picture of Trump to Israel, is the way they interpreted it. I don't see Trump doing this to Israel. I just thought it was a cute picture, though. You're looking at it right now. Anyway, I wish he would do that. I wish he would do that. Let's take a picture of what a Gazan looks like when they're being starved to death. Let's look at that picture right now. Are you looking at that? Does this look like the concentration camps that existed in World War II when the Jews were in those camps? Huh? Does this bring back any memories? You historians out there, I understand you weren't alive during World War II. Well, if you were, I mean, you really, more power to you. I wish I lived as long as you did. But that picture should disturb the hell out of you. We're going to get into some more disturbing stuff. I want to make sure I haven't missed anything on this page. So we got the video of Ron Paul. All right, so we got the picture of the Gazan starving. And the caption for that picture was, "This is Gaza. And if you condemn people who are doing this to children, you may get banned on social media or even arrested in some European countries. What a dystopian world you live in." And if you're a college student and you protest what's happening in Gaza, the FBI is going to come and throw you in jail here in the United States. Oh yeah, we're passing anti-Semitic laws to make sure that nobody says anything about Gaza. That's where your Congress is at. Every congressman that is supporting bombing and killing in Israel is one evil, evil person. And any Christian that supports it is evil. Sorry, that's just how I feel. So let's get into, this is a video. No, this is just a picture, I believe. I didn't put it in here. A Palestinian child flees from Jabalia camp in northern Gaza. Yeah, this is a video, pulling his siblings and what remains of his family's belongings. No child should have to live like this. Let's watch that now. Yep, that's life in Gaza. You know, I hope you stick around to the end of the video, because I did find a clip, and it really made me want to cry even more. It was a video of what Gaza looked like before Israel completely destroyed it and starved the people and blew up. And I've got some more statistics for you. So let's watch a video of Palestinians marching. This short clip. There you go. That's one for you. How about this figure? And I got a little video for you. When Israel bombed the first hospital in Gaza, the world wouldn't believe it. And Israel blamed a misfired rocket from Hamas. Israel has now destroyed all 36 hospitals in Gaza, including its largest, the al-Shifa hospital. This is genocide. Let's watch that little clip of them, the hospital that doesn't exist no more. Let's watch that now. That hospital's rubble. Not going to help anybody else ever again. Genocide, Don. And then, well, we're going to finish off here, unless I'll probably think of some other things that I want to say. But this is the video I was telling you about of what Gaza looked like before Israel blew it off the face of the planet. Let's watch that now. All right, I wanted to read you a post, because this is how Israel makes their argument to the American people. And I think there's a lot of gullible Americans that fall for this bullshit. But I thought this post kind of spoke for itself. Let me just read it to you. This is obviously a pro-Israel open source intel. I think that might be even a CIA operation. The Jews of France, to the Jews of France and the United Kingdom. After reading the statements from your prime ministers today, it is time to confront a hard truth. The countries you call home are no longer what they once were. Safety is no longer a given, and silence is no longer an option. France and the UK are now openly threatening the only Jewish state in the world, warning that if Israel continues defending itself, genocide and the entire population is defending itself. See how they twist the language? You see how they twist the language? And that's all you hear on right-wing radio too. Oh, Israel's just defending itself. How is dropping 2,000-pound bombs on kids defending yourself? How is starving 14,000 kids defending yourself? Oh, well, maybe future generations of Palestinians. God dang right they're going to be pissed off if they allow them to live. Wouldn't you? All right. Sorry. I hate doing that because I lost my place. I'm just going to pick up that whole paragraph. France and the UK are now openly threatening the only Jewish state in the world, warning that if Israel continues defending itself against genocidal terrorists, it will face concrete actions. These are not neutral governments. They are siding with those who would love to see the Jewish nation destroyed. Instead of confronting the monsters who burn babies alive, Israel's burned a lot of babies, and use civilians as shields, they have chosen to pressure the one nation fighting for Jewish survival. This is not diplomacy, this is betrayal. And we all know where this leads in a few years. Muslims will make up a massive portion of the population in both France and UK. The writing is on the wall and we know what follows. Jewish history does not repeat itself, it seems, when it seems about to. But do not wait for the sirens, do not wait for the mobs, do not wait for the doors to be marked or the streets to burn. It's a bitter truth, but it's the truth. And it better be faced now than when it's too late. Choose your future before others choose it for you. I wanted to read that whole thing to you just so you could see how they twist things around. You see what I'm saying? Israel's the ones killing civilians and using civilians as human shields against Hamas. Israel's the one burning babies. Israel's the one blowing up UN peacekeepers trying to get in to get food to the Gazans. Israel's the one starving an entire population and ethnically cleansing. And they say it openly. We played that at the beginning of the video. All right, I'm going to keep going through my notes, see if there's anything else I missed. But I wanted to put that at the end of the video just so you could kind of see how a lot of Americans fall for this stupid Zionist bullshit. All right, this is a reading by Benjamin Netanyahu, because this is more of how Israel twists and turns everything into, that they're just defending themselves. By asking Israel to end a defensive war for our survival before Hamas terrorists on our border are destroyed, and by demanding a Palestinian state, the leaders in London, Ottawa, and Paris are offering a huge prize for the genocidal attack on Israel on October 7th, while inviting more such atrocities. The war began on October 7th when Palestinian terrorists stormed our borders, murdered 1,200 innocent people, and abducted over 250 more. Let me turn around and get the sun. Innocents to the dungeons of Gaza. Israel accepts President Trump's vision and urges all European leaders to do the same. The war can end tomorrow if the remaining hostages are released. They don't want the hostages released. Trump just proved that when he went over there and got that American out of the prison by negotiating directly with Hamas. So this is a bold-faced freaking lie. Do you understand how Netanyahu is one evil son of a bitch? If the remaining hostages are released, Hamas lays down its arms, its murderous leaders are exiled, and Gaza is demilitarized, no nation can be expected to accept anything less, and Israel certainly won't. This is a war of civilization over barbarism. Israel will continue to defend itself by just means until total victory is achieved.
Senator from Vermont.
Thank you very much. Mr. President, I want to say a few words about an issue that people all over the world are thinking about, are appalled by, but for some strange reason gets very little discussion here in the nation's capital or in the halls of Congress. And that is the horrific humanitarian disaster that is unfolding in Gaza. Today marks 68 days and counting since any humanitarian aid was allowed into Gaza. For more than 9 weeks, Israel has blocked all supplies, no food, no water, no medicine, and no fuel. Hundreds of truckloads of life-saving supplies are waiting to enter Gaza, sitting just across the border, but are denied entry by Israeli authorities. There is no ambiguity here. Netanyahu's extremist government talks openly about using humanitarian aid as a weapon. Defense Minister Israel Katz said, quote, Israel's policy is clear. No humanitarian aid will enter Gaza, and blocking this aid is one of the main pressure levers, end of quote. Mr. President, starving children to death as a weapon of war is a clear violation of the Geneva Convention, the Foreign Assistance Act, and basic human decency. Civilized people do not starve children to death. What is going on right now in Gaza is a war crime committed openly and in broad daylight and continuing every single day. Mr. President, there are 2.2 million people who live in Gaza. Today, these people are trapped, the borders are sealed, and Israel has pushed the population into an ever smaller area. With Israel having cut off all aid, what we are seeing now is a slow, brutal process of mass starvation and death by the denial of basic necessities. This is methodical, it is intentional, it is the stated policy of the Netanyahu government. Without fuel, there is no ability to pump fresh water, leaving people increasingly desperate, unable to find clean water to drink or to wash with or to cook properly. Disease is once again spreading in Gaza. Most of the bakeries in Gaza have now shut down, having run out of fuel and flour. The few remaining community kitchens are also shutting down. Most people are now surviving on scarce canned goods, often a single can of beans or some lentils shared between a family once a day. The United Nations reports that more than 2 million people out of a population of 2.2 million face severe food shortages. The starvation hits children the hardest. At least 65,000 children now show symptoms of malnutrition, and dozens have already starved to death. Malnutrition rates increased 80% in March, the last month for which data is available, after Netanyahu began the siege, but the situation has severely deteriorated since then. UNICEF reported yesterday that, quote, the situation is getting worse every day, end quote, and that they are treating about 10,000 children for severe malnutrition. And severe malnutrition is not something that is cured overnight. This will have a permanent impact on the health and well-being of those kids for the rest of their lives. Without adequate nutrition or access to clean water, many children will die of easily preventable diseases, killed by something as simple as diarrhea. For the tens of thousands of injured people in Gaza, particularly the countless burn victims from Israeli bombing, their wounds cannot heal without adequate food and clean water. Left to fester, infections will kill many who should have survived. With no infant formula and with malnourished mothers unable to breastfeed, many infants are also at severe risk of death. Those that survive will bear the scars of what they are going through now for the rest of their lives. And with little medicine available, easily treatable illnesses and chronic diseases like diabetes or heart disease is now a death sentence in Gaza. Mr. President, what is going on there is not some terrible earthquake. It is not a hurricane. It is not a storm. What is going on in Gaza today is a man-made nightmare. And nothing, in my view, can justify this. What is happening in Gaza will be a permanent stain on the world's collective conscience. History will never forget that we allowed this to happen, and for us here in the United States, that we in fact enabled this ongoing atrocity. There is no doubt that Hamas, a terrorist organization, began this terrible war with its barbaric October 7, 2023 attack on Israel, which killed 1,200 innocent people and took 250 hostages. The International Criminal Court was right to indict Yahya Sinwar and other leaders of Hamas as war criminals for those atrocities. Clearly, Israel, as any other country that was so attacked, had the right to defend itself against Hamas. But Netanyahu's extremist government has not just waged war against Hamas. Instead, they have waged an all-out barbaric war of annihilation against the Palestinian people. They have intentionally made life unlivable in Gaza. Israel, up to now, has killed more than 52,000 people and injured more than 118,000, 60% of whom are women, children, and the elderly. More than 15,000 children in Gaza have been killed. Mr. President, Israel's indiscriminate bombardment has damaged or destroyed 2/3 of all of the structures in Gaza, including 92% of the housing units. 92% of housing in Gaza has been damaged or destroyed. Most of the population now is living in tents or other makeshift structures. Mr. President, the healthcare system in Gaza has been essentially destroyed. Most of the territory's hospitals and primary healthcare facilities have been bombed. Gaza's civilian infrastructure has been totally devastated, including almost 90% of water and sanitation facilities. Most of the roads have been destroyed. Gaza's educational system has been obliterated. Hundreds of schools have been bombed. Schools have been bombed, as has every single one of Gaza's 12 universities. And there has been no electricity in Gaza for 18 months, no electricity. Mr. President, given this reality, nobody should have any doubts that Netanyahu is a war criminal. Just like his counterparts in Hamas, he has a massive amount of innocent blood on his hands. And now, Netanyahu and his extremist ministers have a new plan. On top of everything else that has been done, they have a new plan. And that is to indefinitely reoccupy all of Gaza, flatten the few buildings that are still standing, and force the entire population of 2.2 million people into a single tiny area where hired U.S. security contractors will distribute rations to the survivors. Israeli officials are quite open about the goal here: to force Palestinians to leave for other countries, quote, in line with President Trump's vision for Gaza, end quote, as one Israeli official said this week. Israeli Finance Minister Smotrich said this week that, quote, Gaza will be entirely destroyed, end quote, and that its population will, quote, leave in great numbers, end quote. For many in Netanyahu's extremist government, this has been the plan all along. It's called ethnic cleansing. This would be a terrible tragedy, no matter where in the world it was happening or why it was happening, whatever the causes of it might be. But what makes this tragedy so much worse for us in America is that it is our government, the United States government, that is absolutely complicit in creating and sustaining this humanitarian disaster. It didn't just happen. We are a significant part of creating this humanitarian disaster. Last year alone, the United States provided $18 billion in military aid to Israel. This year, the Trump administration has approved $12 billion more in bombs and weapons. And for months, Trump has offered blanket support for Netanyahu. More than that, he has repeatedly said that the United States will actually take over Gaza after the war, that the Palestinian people will be driven, forcibly expelled from their homeland, and the United States will redevelop it into what Trump calls, quote, the Riviera of the Middle East, end quote, a playground for billionaires. Think about it. 2.2 desperate people who have been bombed and starved and driven from their homes are now about to be forcibly expelled from their territory into God knows where, so that Trump and his friends can build a Riviera for the billionaire class. Mr. President, this war has killed or injured more than 170,000 people in Gaza. It has cost American taxpayers well over $20 billion in the last year. And right now, as we speak, thousands of children are starving to death. And the US president is actively encouraging the ethnic cleansing of over 2 million people. Now, given that reality, one might think that there would be a vigorous discussion right here in the Senate. Do we really want to spend billions of taxpayer dollars starving children in Gaza? A real vigorous debate. I want to hear why that is a good use. We have people sleeping out on the streets of America 2 blocks from the nation's capital. You tell me why spending billions of dollars to support Netanyahu's war and starving children is a good idea. I'd love to hear it. But Mr. President, we are not having that debate. And let me suggest to you why I think we are not having that debate. And that is because we have a corrupt campaign finance system that allows organizations like AIPAC to set the agenda here in Washington with regard to what happens in the Middle East. In the last election cycle, AIPAC's PAC and Super PAC spent nearly $127 million combined on campaign contributions. And the fact is that if you are a member of Congress and you vote against Netanyahu's war in Gaza, AIPAC is there to punish you with millions of dollars in advertisements to see that you get defeated. One might think that in a democracy there would be a vigorous debate on an issue of such consequence. But because of our corrupt campaign finance system, which impacts us in so many ways, on this issue, people are literally afraid to stand up, because if they do, suddenly you're going to have all kinds of ads coming in to your district to defeat you. And sadly, I must confess that this political corruption works. Many of my colleagues will privately express their horror at Netanyahu's war crimes, but will do or say very little publicly about it. Mr. President, history will not forgive our complicity in this nightmare. The time is long overdue for us to end our support for Netanyahu's destruction of the Palestinian people. We must not put another nickel into Netanyahu's war machine. We must demand an immediate ceasefire, a surge in humanitarian aid, the release of the hostages, and the rebuilding of Gaza, not for billionaires to enjoy their Riviera there, but rebuilding Gaza for the Palestinian people. With that, Mr. President, I yield the floor.
All right, if this clip appears out of order, it's because it was. And like I said, back in the day, Bernie Sanders had me completely fooled. And I kind of like the dude, because he might be a communist, Marxist, but at least he stands by his convictions. He doesn't just flat out lie to your face like a Hillary Clinton or Joe Biden or, a lot of the Democrats do. So I wasn't going to include this just because I don't like Bernie Sanders. He's gotten rich taking money from Big Pharma and basically, putting the American people last. But every now and then, this is when you kind of like the dude, because he gave this speech on the floor of Congress about what's taking place. All right, on the way back here, if you just do a search on Israel killing aid workers on X, it'll bring up a whole bunch of video. But I'm going to read some of these to you, and we're going to play a couple of these videos. And so if this clip's out of order, this is where I talked in the video about how aid workers, and by the way, there's 1,000 trucks piled up on the border that are ready to go in with food, but they're, like I said, they're afraid for their lives. Israel targets them many times and kills them. They're making a statement. Even with permission, sometimes they kill them. Well, let's watch the first video now. Surgically targeting aid workers is Israel's forte. They have killed at least 196 aid workers during their mass slaughter of Gaza. We must end all support for this terrorist state immediately. And let's get to the next one. NATO-backed Zionist forces have just slaughtered aid workers south of Khan Younis. They were part of a team observing humanitarian aid to starving Palestinians. These aid workers have been killed al-Nusrat in the middle of Gaza. So here they were before they were killed, serving food.
ايش طبخين اليوم؟ بشوف فيها صلصه الحكايه.
اليوم ان شاء الله سباجيتي.
اوبا يعني اليوم معكرونه سباجيتي على هيك.
سباجيتي اليوم.
يلا يا سيدي يعطيكم الف عافيه.
الله يعافيك يا رب.
الله يعطيكم الف عافيه شباب. الله يعافيك.
Like I said, there's many of these Maybe we'll do one or two more. Netanyahu stating that the killing of 7 international aid workers was unintentional and a consequence of war is lying. The World Central Kitchen, I remember this, had coordinated with the IDF a planned route beforehand. More than 196 aid workers have been killed since October 7th. This is how Israel executed the World Central Kitchen aid workers, precisely targeting and that'll be the last video. I could sit here and just play you video after video after video after video of Israel killing aid workers. And you got to admire these aid workers that go in there knowing that they might not make it out. I don't know. I mean, you would think that the United States would condemn this type of activity, the killing of aid workers. Well, China has, Russia has. Amazing how the rest of the world seems to be on the right side of history in a lot of these things, isn't it? I'm just saying. I'll add this to the aid worker, or before the aid worker clip that I made, showing all the people that the Israelis have killed, have tried to bring aid into the Palestinians. But we do have an official number out of the UN, which I think is extremely low. But it's 56,000 dead Palestinians. And of course, that doesn't count the casualties, I'm sure, legs blown off and everything else. And I doubt it even counts the people that are underneath the rubble. I've always given you I was giving you numbers on Ukraine for a long time. And now I've been proven correct. And I believe we're going to be in the hundreds of thousands, if not 1 million, dead Palestinians when it's all said and done.
There are children in Gaza. They're starving to death. We've seen the images of children. You can see their bones. Imagine your grandmother, your great-grandmother, frail and starving, spending the last days of her life surrounded by rubble, witnessing her own children and grandchildren dying. You judge a society by how it treats its youngest and its oldest and its most vulnerable. In Gaza, we're looking at 5% of the population has been wounded or killed. 90% of their homes have been destroyed. But we can solve the problem. Shelter and food and medicine is 3 hours away. As I walk through this warehouse, there are organizations from around the world, governments from around the world that have sent pallets of life-saving medication that are sitting here. And I pray that all of this food in this warehouse makes it into Gaza. And President Trump, I want to thank you for demanding that we open up the border. And as a Catholic, I also want to thank Pope Leo XIV. Among your very first words were to plead for a ceasefire in Gaza and to plead for a break of the blockade. I join my president and I join Pope Leo XIV in calling for an end to the blockade, calling for a ceasefire.
كلمة حلوة وكلمتين حلوة يا بلدي غنوة حلوة وغنوتين حلوة يا بلدي أملي دايما كان يا بلدي إني أرجع لك يا بلدي وأفضل دايما أمان